Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to run down my experience at Elemental Float and Cryotherapy, which was a float experience that I had, and it was my first one. I got the Groupon and I thought, why not? I'm gonna give it a try. I'm always up to try something new. I was very nervous going into it if you follow me on Instagram. It was just a new experience, and I also have had some weird experiences with meditation, so I was a little nervous to try. But the second I walked into Elemental, the ladies were so nice. They let me use the bathroom before I started, and then they got me all set up into the bliss room, which I chose to do a float that was in a float pod. Now, my only experience with floating comes from The Simpsons, and I don't know if you've seen that episode, but Lisa has like a totally weird kind of psychedelic experience. So I was kind of a little worried, but the woman at the front desk kind of talked to me before I even went in, and the space there was beautiful. It's the oldest commercial building in Park Ridge, Illinois, which I found out. Half the space kind of looked like, I would say, a loft, like a loft apartment. The other half was just, it's really cute in there. It's nice and clean. They kind of make it look fancy but relaxing. So it was like light pinks and light green. And I just thought it was such a beautiful space, and it had the original crown molding on it. So aesthetically, it was beautiful. It was also extremely clean, and they had so many just like little amenities that it really felt like a nice experience, just the whole thing. My appointment was for at 1 o'clock. I got there probably 20 minutes early because I didn't know what they'd need to run through, and you know, I think when you're nervous, you just go into things really early. So I got there with plenty of time, and the woman who showed me the room led me there. I was in the bliss room, like I said, and the pod takes up most of the room, but they also had a shower, so you're supposed to rinse before. And my biggest question was, I wore my bathing suit because online it was like mixed reviews. Of course, all of the advertising you see for these pods, people are in bathing suits because they're not going to show anybody like in a bathtub. But all that to say, it pretty much is like just taking a bath and floating there. So the pod itself is totally futuristic. So I'm going like this because you pull yourself into the pod, like you get in and then you pull the lid down, and it's plenty big. Like you have lots of room above you. I'm short and my limbs like touched the sides a lot. My head floated a lot toward the top of the pod, but overall it was very nice to get into. It was warm. They keep it at 90 degrees, so the air, your body, and the water are all one temperature. And they do that so that you can kind of meld to your environment, especially if you're going to go the sensory deprivation route. So as far as the pod goes, the pod had the option of having music, and she also mentioned I could have done a guided meditation, but I chose to just keep the music for my first experience. Music, lights, and it was rotating through just different colored lights. So it had like white and blue, red and green, like a purple too, I believe. Or you could turn off the light and it would be complete sensory deprivation. So I turned the music off right away. I just noticed it was just too loud. It was not for me, and I left the lights on. I was floating there and I thought it was fine, but I couldn't get out of my head, and I started to think, I'm probably thinking about this too much, and I think I thought about it too much the whole time I was in the pod. So eventually I turned off the lights to see what the sensory deprivation was like, and it is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's basically as if you were wearing a mask and you open your eyes, like a sleep mask, and open your eyes. I couldn't see anything. So it was really weird to have your eyes like wide open but not see anything. And your eyes take in so much light that when you close them, sometimes you might see this when you go to bed at night, but you start to see like flashes of light, like, I don't know, like a lava lamp kind of colors. stairs. And I was definitely seeing that, and I've seen that my whole life. So it was nothing new. But I was doing okay until I floated a little too close to the top of the pod, and I had a thing holding my head up because they gave you one of those things, and it like made this noise, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's that noise? I figured it out. I didn't turn the light on. So I just kind of kept hanging out there in the dark. And again, my mind really didn't have too many thoughts, but I think I was not even like able to think those thoughts because I was so engrossed with what was going on outside of me. So I was getting a little frustrated with myself because I'm like, come on, like you paid this money, you want to have this experience. But I just kind of started to relax and let myself just see what happened. So then I think somewhere else in the studio, they closed a door and it sounded like it was in my room. So you're in a pod inside of a room. So it's kind of like creepy to hear something happen outside of your pod, especially because outside your pod is a pitch black dark room as well. If you couldn't tell, I'm scared of the dark. That's what I'm getting at. So I like immediately pushed the light on, and there were 3 buttons, one to turn the music off, one to turn the light off, and then one to talk to the staff out in the lobby. So I pressed the one to turn the light on, and I chose just to have one color because I realized that the rotating colors were really distracting to me. So I chose a red because that was what provided the darkest experience. And after I had the sensory deprivation, clearly my eyes were affected. And I was like looking at the top of the pod, like the ceiling of the pod, and even the red color was starting to move and do some cool things. So that was pretty cool. So I was like, you know what, we need to get over this sensory deprivation scariness, because that's where you see and get a lot of the benefits, one of which is you're hopefully starting to access some of those theta waves, which is like right before you fall asleep. You might be having a dream, but you're still awake. That's what you're going for, because it's allowing your body to really relax. So I turned off the light and I just let myself kind of be in the darkness again. And I would say that is when I experienced like the coolest things. Like I basically could not feel my forehead anymore, and I couldn't feel like the back of my head. It was like numb. It felt like nothing was there. And I think that's because I was just getting to such a state of being relaxed. So I still just really couldn't get out of my head enough to enjoy the sensory deprivation. So I chose to turn on the light again. And the whole time I was like, is this over yet? Is this over yet? Is this over yet? And so I turned on the light and I kept it on the red. And then I just turned on the music to see if I maybe would like that again. And I did. And I felt like I was really relaxed at this point. So then I just started to like float back and forth, like as if I was in a pool. So I'd like push myself down and then push myself back up, and I just kept like ebb and flow, and it was so calming. And then I would like go side to side. I even like did a whole like turn around in the tub just to see, because I felt like this is an experience and you should try as much as you can when you're in there and not try to have somebody else's experience. And I really found that it was really relaxing for me to like kind of go back and forth, up and down. And I think I might choose to do that next time I go float, because I bought 3 more floats after that, because I was like, of course I'm going to do this again. So the whole experience itself is interesting, because then when you get to the end, they start the bubbles up. It's almost like a hot tub kind of thing. It's not hot at all, actually. I was kind of surprised. It wasn't even like, it felt warm when you first got in, but after that it wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm. They start the bubbles to kind of wake you up, because a lot of people do fall asleep. And if you fall asleep, they'll like call in through the intercom and wake you up too. So I got out, you take a shower, you come out. They had so much stuff there. They had creams for your face. They had a Dyson hairdryer, which I used and I loved. It was awesome. I can see why it's well loved and $300 plus. So I used that, dried my hair. The owner was there. It was kind of funny because like I went in with 2 other girls that were working, and then I left because it was a full hour to the owner. she was fantastic. Her name's Christine, and she was so sweet. She got me tea, and I went and relaxed in the little lounge chairs, and then she and I talked, and they have like a full like little boutique. They sell CBD stuff, and she told me about the different packages, and I used my Groupon, and it was amazing. So overall, clearly, I liked it because I bought 3 more float sessions. But I will say, like, the experience being in the pod was not like what I enjoyed. What I enjoyed were the effects afterwards. I felt amazing. Like, I felt I was like floating on air when I was driving home, to the point where I'm like, I just really couldn't have cared less about anything. It was just like I felt total bliss. And part of that is because you're relaxing, but the other part is the Epsom salt, and I believe there was some other kind of salt in there, infuses through your skin, and you get magnesium. And magnesium is amazing for multiple reasons, like pain, but also mental stuff, and I have anxiety, so it just made me feel really, really awesome, really relaxed. And I'm going to try again to do the sensory deprivation. I think I need to try that right out of the gate, but that's the whole point of this, is to figure out what works for you. So if you're scared of sensory deprivation, they do have an open room one, so it's just like a regular tub, and you can float. You can do a tandem float where it's like you and somebody else. Some of you would never go in and just float with a random person. Or if you were in the sensory deprivation tank, you could even like leave the lid open if you would like. But I definitely felt like this is probably what it's like to be a baby inside of a womb. Like, you're feeling floaty. You're feeling like perfectly, like you're not even thinking about anything else, and it's dark, and it was just a really great experience. So I really urge you to try it if you have an opportunity. The best way to try it, I think, is through a Groupon, because if you don't know if you're gonna like it or not, you can just try it. And also, if you didn't like it the first time, try it again. Like I said, I didn't love the experience of actually being in the pod, but I definitely enjoyed the benefits afterwards. And I would also go in with an open mind of what you want it to look like. And I feel like I really made the most out of my hour because I tried everything. I tried no lights, no music. I tried no music with lights. And then I also tried no lights with music just to see what I liked. I tried not moving. I tried moving. I tried using the support for my head. I tried not using the support for my head. So the hour was really long. It felt like an hour, I'm not gonna lie, but it also allowed me time to experience the whole thing for what it was and try different things. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you have tried floating before, drop a comment below. Let us all know what you like about it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, and if you didn't like it, what don't you like about it? Like, how could we change that up? And I'll keep reporting back on my Instagram for sure how subsequent sessions work, because my friend told me that you need multiple sessions under your belt to really get the long-lasting effects. One other thing before we go, I will say that I did do this float session at the end of my Christmas break, and I think that makes a difference too. Like, I had no thoughts. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't worried about anything. So I'm going to try, like, during the week when I am at work and I am stressed out, and see how that affects me and what after effects I have of that too. So maybe I'll report back here. Let me know what you think, and thanks for stopping by. Bye.